We're ranking the 8 craziest doomsday trains ever conceived. Machines built to outlast atomic strikes, move in total secrecy, or even launch nuclear missiles on the move. From heavily armored Cold War icons to modern rumors that fuel global tension, each one earned its place by how far nations pushed survivability, firepower, and sheer paranoia. Some were routine convoys cloaked in secrecy, while others promised apocalypse at the push of a button. Which country built the ultimate S-tier survival train, and which designs barely left the station? Let's kick off our countdown with number 8. 8th place goes to the United States Department of Energy's so-called white trains, armored rail convoys that quietly shuttled nuclear weapons across the country for nearly 4 decades. From 1951 to 1987, these stark white boxcars, reinforced with steel plating and sometimes topped with gun turrets, moved warheads between factories, military bases, and the Pantex assembly plant in Texas. Security was intense. Armed Department of Energy guards rode along, routes were kept secret, and the trains themselves looked unremarkable to the untrained eye. Yet the white trains became a symbol of Cold War anxiety, drawing waves of anti-nuclear protesters who tracked their movements and staged sit-ins along the rails. Despite their armored hulls and secrecy, these trains were never designed to launch missiles, only to protect and deliver them. By the late 1980s, changing tactics and growing public scrutiny pushed the Department of Energy to retire the trains in favor of more discreet truck convoys. The white trains set the baseline for doomsday rail security, but without strike capability, they remain a stark reminder of how routine logistics became shrouded in Cold War paranoia. Number 7 introduces the United States Peacekeeper Rail Garrison, a project that nearly brought nuclear missile trains to American rails. In the late 1980s, the U.S. Air Force envisioned a fleet of 25 trains, each carrying 2 MX Peacekeeper intercontinental ballistic missiles. These trains would have operated from secure garrisons, dispersing across the national rail network during a crisis to avoid detection and ensure a retaliatory strike capability. Unlike earlier armored transport trains, the rail garrison was designed not just to move warheads, but to launch them directly from the tracks. Congressional records and CRS hearings reveal the program's staggering cost, over $6 billion by the time of its cancellation in 1991. Safety fears and political backlash mounted as arms control treaties gained momentum, with critics warning that the system could escalate tensions and complicate verification. Despite heavy lobbying from defense contractors, the Peacekeeper Rail Garrison never moved beyond prototype trains and test runs. Its cancellation marked a turning point, as the US shifted away from mobile nuclear basing and toward arms reduction. The rail garrison stands as a monument to Cold War ambition, halted by cost, controversy, and a changing political climate. Number 6 introduces North Korea's shadowy rail launch missile program, an entry that sits at the intersection of fact and speculation. In 2021 and again in 2023, state media broadcast footage of short-range ballistic missiles emerging from camouflaged railcars, their launches timed to coincide with major US and South Korean exercises. Open-source analysts, including C4ADS and All Source Analysis, have tracked new tunnel portals and rail sidings near coastal missile bases, while UN sanctions reports document attempts to import heavy-duty rail bogies and reinforced tunnel doors. Defector testimony collected by the Committee for Human Rights in North Korea describes a network of rail-accessible tunnels in provinces like South Hamgyong, though no direct evidence has surfaced to confirm they house actual missile trains or intercontinental ballistic missiles. The launches themselves are real. North Korea has demonstrated at least 2 successful railcar missile firings, signaling a growing interest in mobile, survivable basing. Yet the scale and readiness of any operational missile train force remain unverified. Unlike the massive, well-documented fleets of the Cold War superpowers, North Korea's program is defined by uncertainty and information warfare. The possibility of underground rail networks or hidden launch sites raises the stakes for regional security, but most details remain cloaked in secrecy. For now, North Korea's Doomsday train ambitions are a matter of cautious analysis, real enough to prompt concern, but not yet confirmed on the scale of the world's most infamous missile trains. Number 5 brings China's rumored DF-41 rail mobile missile program into the spotlight, a case where open-source analysis collides with the limits of verification. Western defense reports, including the CIPRA Yearbook and IYSS Military Balance, have flagged the DF-41 as a candidate for rail-based deployment, citing unconfirmed tests and doctrinal writings. According to Missile Defense Advocacy Alliance, several launcher tests were allegedly conducted as early as December 2015, but these claims rest on secondary reporting without supporting satellite imagery or official Chinese confirmation. No photographs, patent filings, or state media releases have surfaced to show a DF-41 launch from rail, and all published imagery depicts the missile on road-mobile platforms. Despite the lack of hard evidence, the logic behind a rail-mobile DF-41 is clear. The missile's range, estimated at over 12,000 kilometers, and its potential to carry multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles make it a strategic asset if concealed within China's vast rail network. Analysts at the Middlebury Institute and Arms Control Association point to the People's Liberation Army Rocket Force's emphasis on mobility and survivability, both hallmarks of a rail-based deterrent. Yet, without open-source proof of operational trains, the DF-41 rail concept remains speculative, plausible in doctrine, but unverified in the field. The debate itself signals a new arms control challenge, as future treaty verification may struggle to keep pace with mobile hidden launch systems. China's possible foray into rail-mobile ICBMs marks a leap in technological ambition, but for now, it sits just outside the realm of confirmed doomsday trains, waiting for evidence to catch up with rumor. Number 4 brings Russia's Barguzin missile train project into focus, a modern echo of Cold War ambitions, but one that stalled before leaving the station. In 2016, the Russian Ministry of Defense announced plans to revive the concept of rail-mobile intercontinental ballistic missiles, signaling a return to the era when nuclear missiles could vanish into the country's vast rail network. The project, known as Barguzin, was slated to field a new generation of intercontinental ballistic missiles based on the RS-24 Yars, with each train carrying multiple launchers disguised as ordinary freight cars. Russian press releases and CIPRA reporting at the time described Barguzin as a leap forward in survivability and strategic ambiguity, designed to complicate enemy targeting and ensure a credible second strike capability. The technical plans called for lighter missiles, faster deployment, and modernized command systems, an answer to evolving Western missile defenses and satellite surveillance. But the political and economic climate quickly shifted. By late 2017, Russian defense officials quietly acknowledged that Barguzin had been suspended, citing budget constraints and changing strategic priorities. IISS analysis and Russian state media confirmed the project's freeze, with no prototypes built and no trains ever entering service. The decision reflected the immense cost of developing new mobile launch platforms, especially as arms control treaties and economic pressures forced hard choices within Russia's defense budget. The Barguzin episode stands as a case study in modern deterrence signaling, an ambitious announcement that rattled Western analysts, but ultimately remained a paper project. It marks Russia's most recent attempt to re-enter the rail launch arena, bridging the gap between Soviet legacy and contemporary restraint. The Barguzin project never reached operational status, but its brief existence highlights the ongoing tension between strategic ambition, technological feasibility, and the realities of defense spending. Coming to the top 3, Russia's Zvezda and Yenisei armored command trains represent the modern evolution of doomsday rail strategy, designed not to launch missiles, but to keep national leadership and command functions alive under the worst conditions. In 2014, and again in 2018, Russian Ministry of Defense drills featured these trains departing Moscow with senior command staff, simulating mobile evacuation and continuous control during a nuclear crisis. Jane's Defense Weekly and Radio Free Europe both documented these exercises, noting that the trains operated for up to 48 hours, maintaining secure communications and practicing handover of command authority while in constant motion. Unlike the missile-armed giants of the Cold War, these trains focus on survivability and continuity. Official statements and SIPRI drill summaries describe extensive EMP shielding, classified communication suites, and hardened carriages, features meant to resist the effects of nuclear detonations, cyber attacks, and advanced surveillance. Russian military releases claim the trains are equipped to operate independently for days, ensuring that strategic orders can be relayed even if fixed command posts are destroyed. While the full technical details remain classified, open-source imagery confirms the presence of specialized antenna arrays and reinforced control cars. This approach marks a shift from launch on rails to command on rails. Survivability and mobility are prioritized over strike capability. The Zvezda and Yenisei trains bridge the gap between Cold War missile patrols and the persistent threat of decapitation strikes, offering a credible mobile headquarters for national leadership. Their existence sets the stage for speculation about even more secretive Soviet-era evacuation systems, but the documented drills alone demonstrate Russia's commitment to keeping strategic command on the move in the nuclear age. Number 2 lifts the curtain on one of the Cold War's most persistent mysteries: the rumored Soviet leadership evacuation trains. While the archives are filled with records of mass civilian and industrial evacuations, 17 million people and thousands of factories moved eastward in 1941 alone, direct evidence of Politburo-specific escape trains remains elusive. Declassified Soviet memos and oral histories hint at contingency planning for national survival, but the details are shrouded in secrecy. References to rail-borne shelters and hardened command cars surface in National Archives summaries and ISS translations, yet the actual blueprints and route lists are either missing or remain classified to this day. Some historians point to the existence of special trains for the transfer of cultural treasures, like the Hermitage Museum's million-piece evacuation to Sverdlovsk. Others cite post-war rumors of concealed tunnels and secret sidings near Moscow, possibly reserved for the rapid movement of top leadership in a crisis. Western intelligence assessments from the 1970s and 1980s, now partially declassified, mention rail-based command continuity assets in the Soviet Union, but stop short of confirming any operational network dedicated solely to the Politburo. Oral accounts from former railway workers and military staff collected in the NTY Oral History Project describe the sudden appearance of unmarked, heavily guarded trains during major military exercises, fueling speculation about their true purpose. The psychological stakes could not have been higher. For a regime obsessed with continuity of command, the prospect of a mobile, armored sanctuary for the nation's leaders was both a symbol of resilience and a source of enduring paranoia. The absence of hard proof has only deepened the intrigue, leaving researchers to piece together a puzzle from scattered memos, missing schematics, and the occasional eyewitness account. Some analysts, including those at SYPRI and the IISS, argue that the Soviets likely maintained at least the capability for rapid rail evacuation, citing the scale of the national network and the regime's documented investment in hardened bunkers. But until new documents are released, the existence of dedicated Politburo Doomsday trains remains an open question, one that captures the tension, secrecy, and psychological drama of the Cold War's nuclear endgame. Which train deserves S tier? Tell us below, like and subscribe for grounded breakdowns. And finally, in first place, the Soviet Union's Bzhok RT-23 Molodets missile trains stand as the ultimate expression of doomsday rail technology, a force that once haunted Western intelligence with its invisibility and destructive power. From 1987, 12 of these trains quietly roamed the Soviet Union's 145,000-kilometer rail network, each disguised as a string of ordinary refrigerated freight cars. But beneath the camouflage, every train carried 3 RT-23 intercontinental ballistic missiles, each capable of delivering a nuclear warhead to targets across continents. The technical achievement was staggering. The RT-23 missile used a cold launch system, ejected by a gas generator before its main engine fired, preventing catastrophic damage to the train or rails. Launch could occur from any section of track free from overhead wires, with specialized equipment on board to part the catenary when needed. The entire operation, from stopping the train to opening the launch roof, raising the missile, and firing, could be completed in under 20 minutes, even under threat of attack. Survivability was the heart of the doctrine. Soviet engineers and planners, as documented in RAND and SIPRI studies, designed the BZRK to vanish among thousands of civilian trains. Over 200 prepared launch sidings, scattered across the country, offered endless hiding places. NATO satellites struggled to distinguish these doomsday trains from the ordinary flow of commerce. On-site inspection logs from the START era describe elaborate cat-and-mouse games, with crews using decoy cars and route diversions to foil arms controllers. Life on board was as secretive as it was tense. Crew members, according to interviews collected by the NTI Oral History Project and Russian Defense Archives, spent up to 30 days on patrol, cut off from the outside world. Medical reports from the late 1980s detail chronic stress, sleep deprivation, and a constant sense of vulnerability to sabotage or sudden attack. Yet the mission's gravity was never in doubt. As one veteran recalled, "We never knew where we'd wake up, or if we'd be ordered to launch. The tension was always there." The program's scale and cost were immense. Each train required dozens of crew, layers of security, and round-the-clock maintenance. Still, the strategic payoff was clear: a nuclear strike capability that could not be easily destroyed, even in a first wave of attack. Viktor Kashin, the system's chief designer, wrote in his diary, "We built what was supposedly impossible, a missile that could survive and launch from a train disguised as a freight wagon." Retirement came slowly, beginning with the dissolution of the Soviet Union. By the early 2000s, under the terms of START 2 and New START, the last BZRK trains were decommissioned, missiles removed, carriages scrapped, and only a handful preserved as museum relics. Yet for over 15 years, these trains represented the pinnacle of Cold War paranoia and technological ambition. They forced adversaries to rethink the very nature of deterrence, blending the threat of apocalypse with the banality of everyday rail traffic. The BZRK remains unmatched, a rolling arsenal, a ghost in the freight yards, and the undisputed S-tier of doomsday trains. Subscribe for more deep-dive tier lists on history and technology. From the United States' armored white trains to the Soviet Union's fully deployed BZRK missile trains, this countdown revealed just how far countries pushed rail technology in service of nuclear deterrence. Across all 8 entries, one pattern stands out: the constant drive for survivability and secrecy, whether by moving warheads under heavy guard or hiding entire missile batteries in plain sight. The most shocking leap came with the BZRK, 12 trains, each carrying 3 intercontinental ballistic missiles, patrolling thousands of kilometers disguised as freight. Meanwhile, speculative entries like the rumored Soviet leadership evacuation trains show how fear and uncertainty shaped extreme contingency planning, even when hard evidence is scarce. What qualified these projects wasn't just their technical innovation, but the chilling logic of making nuclear arsenals more elusive and command more resilient. Ultimately, doomsday trains were a product of their era, blending engineering, paranoia, and strategy on a scale still unmatched. They remind us that, in the nuclear age, mobility and deception became as important as firepower. Subscribe for more deep-dive tier lists on history and technology.